This is the story of how a confusing mathematical problem met a confusing astronomical problem and gave birth to not just one, but two holidays. Today's story is called The Matter of Time.
Welcome to the very first holiday season of The Story. Season 5 features 8 stories of trailblazers paired with the beginnings of some of the most famous winter holidays ever. Season 5 of The Story is brought to you exclusively by Salesforce, the world's #1 customer relationship management platform. More than 150,000 businesses are using Salesforce to blaze their own trails to success. The Story is created by our team at Mission.org, a media company and podcast network.
It was ancient times. Having already achieved great military successes, Julius Caesar continued to display his might by leading his Roman army to victory in a bloody civil war. As victor, he named himself supreme ruler of Rome and dictator for life. Caesar purged the empire of the old republic's ways. He carried out much-needed reform that helped bring the empire out from under its debt. He increased the size of the Senate and made it more open and fairer so that it better represented the people of Rome. He reconstructed the city-states of Carthage and Corinth, which had been destroyed by his predecessors. He granted citizenship to foreigners and even invited some of his defeated rivals to serve with him in the government. After he solidified his rule, Caesar turned his attention to a matter that had been a thorn in the side of the state and the masses for decades: the matter of time. The people of Rome were following the Republican calendar, an outdated measure of time that attempted to align with the 28-day lunar cycle. But it was not the true Republican calendar. Previous Roman politicians had abused their authority and added days or weeks here and there to extend their rule. Over time, the Republican calendar grew more inconsistent with the true solar year, and now this disparity was so significant that days of worship and festivals were being held in the very opposite seasons they had originally been created to celebrate. Every year this caused great confusion, and every year the problem only got worse. Caesar knew the calendar needed to be reformed, so he enlisted the help of Sosigenes, an Alexandrian astronomer. They borrowed from the Egyptian calendar and calculated that the solar year lasted 365.25 days. In 46 BC, Caesar added 67 days to the year to correct the discrepancies that the Republican calendar had created. He also reassigned the lengths of each month and decreed that every 4 years a day be added to February. All of these corrections would, theoretically, keep his calendar from falling out of step with the solar year. On January 1st, 45 BC, the Romans instituted the Julian calendar and celebrated the very first New Year. But it didn't stick. As you can imagine, in the days before the internet and unifying government organizations, it was nearly impossible to get the whole world to adopt a new calendar simultaneously. So for more than 1,600 years, the New Year remained a floating holiday around the world. Some celebrated it on December 25th, in line with Christmas and the winter solstice. Others celebrated it on March 1st in the old Roman style. Most commonly, it was celebrated on March 25th, in honor of the spring equinox, or the Christian feast of the Annunciation. It wasn't until 1582 that the Gregorian calendar was instituted by the Roman Church. It corrected a few errors to the Julian calendar, most notably that the solar year is 365.2425 days long, not 365.25 as Caesar had been told. While this may seem like a minor difference, over the course of centuries, it added up, and by 1582, it had resulted in a 10-day difference between the Julian calendar and the solar year. To correct the problem, the Gregorian calendar made it so that the leap year happened every year whose number is divisible by 4, except for years that are both divisible by 100 and not divisible by 400. And what does that confusing formula mean? that 3 times in every 400-year period, there are 8 years between leap years instead of 4. So, the years 2100, 2200, and 2300 will have no leap year, but the year 2400 will. Yeah. It's okay if you still don't understand. It took us a while to grasp it too. But despite all the mathematical complications and astronomical disagreements about when the new year should be and how often the leap year should occur, one thing remained. The new year, whenever it was celebrated, was a time to reflect on the past year and look ahead to the next. It's a time to pursue new beginnings, create resolutions, and set yourself on a brighter path. And maybe it doesn't really matter when the new year is celebrated, be it March, December, or January. Maybe there is no year end, only another day providing us with another opportunity to become better versions of ourselves. In the words of Hal Borland, year's end is neither an end nor a beginning, but a going on, with all the wisdom that experience can instill in us. Every day has the propensity to be a new year in our personal journey through time. So while you celebrate the traditional New Year, go into 2019 with a different attitude. Instead of creating resolutions for the year, make resolutions for yourself every day. Each sunrise provides a new day for growth, change, and reflection. If you take advantage of those opportunities, you will find endless joy and prosperity in your everyday life. And that's their story. What's yours going to be?
Thanks for listening to The Story. If you love this and want more, tap subscribe to make sure you don't ever miss an episode. Thanks again to Salesforce for sponsoring this season of The Story. The Story is created by The Mission, your #1 source for accelerated learning. We send out a daily newsletter, operate a network of podcasts and shows, and our brand studio creates sponsorships that drive results for world-class companies like Salesforce. Subscribe and learn more at mission.org.